exit 6, Evanston, to exit 83, LaBarge Road. As of 6:57 p.m., February 28, 2023. The estimated opening time is unknown.
As long-haul Paul Marhofer had it early this week, detailing his experience in Wyoming in late February when that automated voice you heard up top was in his ear quite often during an extended stay at a particular truck stop in Laramie. Yeah, it's been a winter from hell along I-80 in Wyoming. I'm Todd Dills, your Overdrive Radio podcast host as usual, and in case you missed that story early this week of March 17th, 2023, podcast coming to you on our usual Friday drop here, Marhofer was kind enough to relay it here for the podcast listeners. But we've also got a special treat in this one, in the voice of owner-operator Andy Freeman out of Wisconsin, who hauls in a 2014 Freightliner 122 SD, pulling a much newer Trail King RGN minideck, outfitted for what are mostly oversized loads. I caught up with Freeman in Orlando, Florida, on the site of the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association's annual Specialized Transportation Symposium. Freeman, leased to Landstar now for many years and hauling mostly aviation-related freight, airport to airport as he puts it, had his rig empty and set up at the conference hotel in the parking lot where Florida Highway Patrol inspectors demonstrated a walk-around level 2 inspection of it for conference attendees. While I say the trailer was empty, that's not entirely true. Almost dead center lengthwise on the minideck was an itty-bitty strapped-down toy loader that, of course, I had to ask Freeman about. Turns out, it wasn't just his attempt at good humor for the conference attendees, and those inspectors, as it were.
I always have a load. I'm always loaded. And whenever you're loaded, it's mental.
Yeah.
Whenever you're loaded, it's not all that bad. Now,
You're making money, right? There's more to it in the conversation that follows. Also, owner-operator Freeman's fortuitous find delivering a solution to one particularly long-suffered problem for many a heavy specialized hauler, not to mention flatbedders, particularly those with no more than your standard sort of 70-inch sleeper, as is the case for his 122 SD.
so that is a standard, really off the shelf. I mean, there's a lot of little extra goodies on it, but that truck is a regular Freightliner Daimler piece of equipment.
Yeah. 70-inch sleeper, right?
70-inch sleeper. It could have been a company truck for that matter.
Yeah.
And in the end, I've been in the industry now for 33 years. And I've been in platform for 23 years. And a lot of times you just want to take a shower,
Right.
just to take a rinse.
After a little bit of tarping or something.
If you're in Miami or you're in Orlando and it's 90 degrees outside, you're tarping, you're going to get hot and sweaty. Well, after you get all done tarping, it's time to go. You're all hot and sweaty. Now you got to sit in the seat, all hot and sweaty and funky, for however long it takes you to get to a shower. Now, ultimately, you're going to try to do this to where you can get to a place to park safely and legally, and then take a shower. So it took me a while. I finally went on Sprinter Van RV, and I don't even know how I got there, but somehow I was surfing the web, and I ended up crashing into this site, and I found...
And what did he find? The big reveal after the break. And we'll dive right into the scene in late February with Paul Marhofer out on I-80 in Wyoming after a quick word from Overdrive Radio's sponsor, House.
Now that winter's here, it's time to prepare yourself for the conditions you'll encounter. By adding Howe's Diesel Treat at every fill-up, you can prevent your diesel fuel from gelling in even the coldest temperatures. While it safely removes water, adds lubricity, and prevents deposits, the nation's #1 anti-gel will help protect your engine and provide you with the added power you crave. Backed by the only no-tow guarantee, Howe's Diesel Treat will keep you rolling no matter what weather comes your way. Learn more at howesproducts.com. Howe's. Tested, trusted, guaranteed.
That's HOWES. howesproducts.com. If you've used Howe's fuel treatments like Diesel Treat throughout your career, we want to hear from you about your experience. Call and leave your name and tell your story on our podcast message line at 615-852-8530. Give your mailing address and we'll send you a prize pack too from the Howes Company featuring its diesel Defender treatment as well as the Howes multi-purpose alcohol-free penetrating oil. That's 615-852-8530. Okay, handing it off here to Long Haul Paul Marhofer here for the tale of the long cold road. Mistakes made, more, marooned with closures late last month along I-80 in Wyoming.
As of 6:57 p.m., February 28, 2023. The estimated opening time is unknown.
Packing to leave on Sunday is the worst. You'd think I'd be used to it by now after 4 million miles, but I'm not. In fact, for some reason, it's getting harder. While the folks around us readied themselves for Sunday Mass, I commenced to disgorge the dining room table of an unruly mound of clean laundry, rolling up bib overalls and stuffing them into my red and black Stoops Freightliner duffel bag, a door prize from a 2017 company safety picnic held well before the pandemic sent such events the way of the dinosaur. Then there was the hanging of the shirts, the stowing of socks and undies into their respective compartments, and as I packed, my other half jumper was transfixed upon her phone, watching the weather out west. "Have you seen the weather in Wyoming, dear?" she said. "Nope, and I'm not looking at it." "Okay." One of those okays that bore the imprimatur, let's say, of a long-suffering trucker's wife. Elongated O followed by a sing-songy K, a portent of imminent doom followed by a kind of resignation. "Look, I drive the mile that's in front of me, and if they shut me down, they shut me down," I said. "That's how I do it. I don't look at the weather. I never look at the weather. I've got food, water, and a blanket. Got everything I need. What am I going to do? Call off the load?"
The estimated opening time is unknown.
Okay. Then came the loading of food, shaving kit, hung shirts, guitar, and that red and black Stoops Freightliner duffel bag into the old F-150 until the last darkening of the door and the hug goodbye. But this time, Jumper broke down sobbing. She's really not much of a crier, so just what was that all about? Too late, gotta go. Been 41 years with that woman, and I still really don't know how to read her most of the time. You think I'm afraid of a little snow? Nothing clears the head like a reefer load to Salt Lake City. You go to a small town in Ohio, drop, hook, and there's 2.5 days of nothing but pure driving. When it comes to trucking, at least where I work, Salt Lake City, man. It's the best of the best. If the load shakes loose late, or if you simply sandbag it out of the house, all you gotta do is get yourself to the I-80 truck stop, declare victory, go to bed, and let the white noise of I-80 sing you to sleep. On better days, you can make Brooklyn, maybe even Stewart, before you shut down for the night. Then there's nothing you have to do but get up the next morning, go about your morning rituals, pre-trip your truck, and drive. It's old man's freight, really. Easy peasy. On the second day, you declare victory at Ogallala or Points West, and have yet another nice, relaxing sleep. Get up the next morning, go about your pre-trip, morning ritual, and drive. On the third day, you deliver. Yes, it's simply the best run they've got. Except for weeks like this one, when you're laid up in a fetal position in Laramie with I-80 shut down, calling the 511 line over and over again for the automated male voice to tell you, over and over, the estimated opening time is unknown.
The estimated opening time is unknown. The estimated opening time is...
So you walk into the Petro. There's nothing left to do now but order the hamburger steak and put yourself in a food coma. The ecosystem of a truck stop changes when the road shuts down. People were lingering, having long conversations. I hadn't seen so many customers in there since before the pandemic. I got my belly full, then sauntered into the TV room to see if I could catch a little conversation before nap time. A disheveled man of about 30 was holding forth, telling his troubles to whoever would listen. "I've been shut down 5 times this winter. Last week for 4 days," he said. It was Tuesday afternoon. There was something wrong with his voice and demeanor, as if all these shutdowns were on the verge of shutting him down. He spoke like a man who couldn't quit shivering. "I've been here this time since Sunday." He was probably some mega fleet rookie psyched out by a hand-holding dispatcher, I thought. That's what you tell yourself when you've got a job to do and people around you are melting down. I had to get out of that room. The food coma was beginning to make itself known just as a desperation was coming over me. I walked outside. I thought of my wife asking if I'd looked at the weather. Maybe I should have given it a look-see. At least in Ogallala, I called her and told her as much, then went to sleep. I came out of the food coma around dusk. The wind was still howling. The automated male voice broke the bad news.
The estimated opening time is unknown.
8 p.m. Same.
The estimated opening time is
Around
unknown.
9, I slammed a quart of whole milk and some Oreos and induced my second coma. I was slept out by 1 and called one more time. We were open. This was different than previous road closure situations I'd been in years past. In pre-ELD days, you could tell the road was open by a mass exodus of trucks. It was like people leaving a concert. Now just 2 or 3 were trickling out. Somehow, I relished the change, though. Surprisingly few rigs were on the road now, and almost all of them were driving like real pros. The hardest thing in recent months has been the sheer volume of trucks going insanely fast in icy conditions. I've seen it. You're barely holding it together at 35 or 40 miles per hour, and they scorch past you doing 60, maybe 70 in the lane that hasn't even been cleared of snow. And they all look so young to me. California, Illinois, from wherever they're from. Maybe it's my own perception bias, I'll admit. But you just know they're going to wreck. Sometimes they do. Many times you see those same trucks jackknifed in the median. At least for now, those guys weren't on this road. As if a higher force was out there somewhere saying, "No worries, Hand. I got this." It's been a winter from hell here. The Wyoming Business Report noticed fatalities went up from 6 in 2022 to 20 in 2023 as of February 17th, a spike north of 300%. After some time, conditions cleared, and we were at road speed westbound and heading for Elk Mountain. Maybe next time I'll catch the weather ahead of time and go the southern route through Denver. Thanks for listening. This is Paul Marhofer. Have a safe trip.
Big thanks, Paul. Most definitely check those weather reports. Jumper knows best in this case. Noted Overdrive reader Brian Sheehan and well-considered commentary under Paul's story at overdriveonline.com early this week. As Sheehan wrote, quote, "The reason checking those weather reports before you leave is wise is you already know you're going to need to take the southern route before you go and you can plan for it. Though this time of the year, it's almost a foregone conclusion. You'd think 70 across the high peaks would be worse in the winter, yet it rarely is," end quote. Sheehan added that he, quote, "always finds it humorous when someone is calling out the rookies and the fleet drivers. When you watch any of the videos of the massive pileups, there are more fancy owner-operator trucks crashing than any fleet in them," he contended. He then went on, It always amazes me how other veteran drivers out here talk about how they don't want to use newer technology like weather apps that would make them safer and more productive. Like not using those technologies is some kind of a virtue, end quote. So Jumper's long, drawn out, okay. She and rightly dubbed, quote, a worried wife knowing her husband was being foolish. Point taken, Paul Marhofer says. And food for thought. Now, jumping right in with owner-operator Andy Freeman, detailing a long career, including military experience, toward where he is today.
Andy Freeman, Richland Center, Wisconsin. I've been in heavy specialized for 23 years. I worked for another company, and I wasn't really happy with them, and I thought I've heard good news about Landstar, and I talked to some Landstar BCOs, business capacity owners, and they could not talk anything bad about them, so I thought, well, I'll just try this out, and that's where I ended up. And what I really like about Landstar is I'm a one truck, one guy operator, but I have the buying power of 10 or 12,000 trucks, and that's how Landstar's set up. So I get discounts on tires, I get discounts on fuel, I get discounts on repairs, I can get discounts on buying equipment. So instead of me going in there as an owner operator and they're like, okay, well, it's $9 for this thing, we'll just give it, for instance, Landstar's price might be $4. Right. And if you're buying tires, tires can be really expensive. But if it's for an owner operator, it could be $500. You might get it through Landstar or corporate discount and get it for $350, $400.
Tell me about the truck and trailer that we're looking at here. And
I ordered, that's a GHG 2014 Freightliner SD122. I ordered that truck in 2013. We got it in 2014. It's not derated. It's 100% GHG. It's still GHG. The trailer is a 21. I special ordered a trailer, Trail King. We kind of spent 5 months specking it out, trying to get everything just right for it. It's got very little camber in it. It don't haul a lot of weight. I didn't build it to haul a lot of weight. I built it to haul tall and wide. Mostly airport to airport, although I still do a lot of vehicles. Not so much military vehicles, but more show semi-trucks. I do a lot of semi-trucks and show trucks. Or NASA. I've done NASA stuff too. Yeah. It's a DD16, a 600 horse. I cut it back to 1850. The drivetrain is set up for 2250. But by reducing the torque out of the motor, it takes the stress off of the bearings, it takes the stress off the drivetrain, it takes the stress off of everything. Even though the bearings are set up and the whole drivetrain is set up to do heavy or heavy torque, by reducing it, it'll lower my risk of a maintenance or a failure on the road. 13-speed manual.
Okay. You've got like the manufactured housing style adjustable mirror brackets on your tractor there. Tell me about why you did that and when you did that.
I chose and I went through a manufacturer in Indiana that does conversions. They convert semi-trucks over to toter trucks. Right. Toter trucks are the guys who haul mobile homes down the road. They can be anywhere from 14 to 18 foot wide. And when you start looking at what heavy haul does, we could be all the way up to 18 foot wide or wider. Yeah. The toter mirror system that I put on the truck allows me to put the mirrors out without any painful trying to modify something or make something work, so I can get a mirror out there so I can see behind me. Yeah, sure. A lot of states, almost all the states, require me to have something back there so I could see. Yep. Camera systems are starting to come in where they're letting us do more cameras, but ultimately it's a mirror that's down the side of it, and with the electric mirrors, I'm able to adjust the mirrors in and out so I can get them out there where I can see down the side of the trailer, and I can, even though I have a pilot car or escorts behind me, having the mirrors is always best because then I always have that ability to see.
With some of the high and wide pieces he pulls on the Trail King RGN minideck, that ability to see is paramount for sure, particularly in keeping an eye on the average motorist or another trucker who might be coming up alongside, approaching a bridge or another shoulder obstruction that may well require Freeman to maneuver back a little further into parts of the left lane. At the Specialized Carriers Conference, a big topic of discussion among the variety of panels centered on education of those both inside and outside of trucking for greater awareness of safe practice around oversized loads, about being mindful of pilot car maneuvering, and the like. It's a big part of what owner-operator Freeman wants other pros and non-professionals alike to recognize about what he does.
Whenever a load is going down the road and it's flagged up with or without an escort, the best way to think about what that load that's in front of you that's going slow, and it could be a truck with no escorts, it could be a truck with a half a dozen escorts. The easiest thing to remember is that truck is actually hauling somebody's job. There's something on that trailer that's going somewhere that will directly or indirectly affect anybody and everybody who's going to be around it. In a lot of cases, I haul people's jobs. In my department, where I do a lot of airport to airport, somebody's going to use that engine and they're going to be sitting on an airplane, not even thinking about it, and that motor is going to help them get on travel. I've hauled power plant equipment that's going to turn your lights back on. I've hauled equipment into manufacturing that stamps out automobile parts. Almost everything that you use today or you're going to buy today, it ends up on the back of somebody's truck. And generally at the beginning of it, it's on a specialized piece of equipment, and it's probably more than likely going to be oversized. It's the widgets that make people go to work.
Yeah.
In the specialized department, we haul widgets.
Big ones.
Big widgets. It could be a little widget, but at the end of the day, somebody's going to work.
You got a little one on your trailer here today. Tell me what that's about.
As noted up top, Freeman had a little Tonka loader secured to the big expanse of his empty mini deck throughout the day out in the conference hotel parking lot, through the mock walk-around, level 2 inspection, and everything.
So that started decades ago, and it really comes down to, it's a fun little toy. A lot of people, for just 1 second, when it takes them to go flying by you, they'll see it and it'll put a smile on their face, and for one brief minute they won't be as owly as they were, and it helps break the monotony up, and it makes them smile and puts them in a better mood. So when they're driving around you, they have a different attitude. The other hidden meaning is, if I'm going down a road and there's nothing on my trailer, well, I'm not making any money. So with my little loader on there, having it on there, I always have a load. I'm always loaded. And whenever you're loaded, it's mental.
Yeah.
Whenever you're loaded, it's not all that bad.
Yeah.
Now, there's a little keynote about that. It is in states like California, because this happened to me. They actually consider that to be freight. And if you're hauling freight on a commercial vehicle, you have to have a permit. And I have been asked for a permit for one little loader. And I have actually 2 bill of ladings filled out for my little loader. I pick it up at my house at my convenience, and I deliver it at my house at my convenience.
You got them like pre-filled out.
They're already filled out. When I get there, they get delivered. But you got to have a bill of lading. I actually have a bill of lading for the little guy. And I get a lot of people that smile at me, who do look around. They just smile, and for that little bit that they're around me, they're happy campers, and the whole time they're around me, they're happy campers. And when they're happy campers, they're a safer driver.
Yeah.
They're not as tight. They're not as tight, or and it just turns out.
Yeah. I mean, you can be happy and distracted, I suppose, but the things that really wind you up and make you mad are the things that really distract you the most mentally, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And usually people, when I'm oversized, is a lot of it turns out to be the van division in trucking. They'll pull right in front of you, and that's probably the biggest thing that pisses somebody with oversize off, because we tried to stay to the right, whether on the white line or over the white line or we're over the rumble strips. Yeah. We try to keep one lane of the interstate open and try to put most of the load in the very right lane or on the shoulder. Most of the time I'm on the shoulder. But invariably what happens is I got to be able to look up a road as far as the eyeball will let me go, whether it's a half a mile or 2 miles, or I might see something around a corner that you can only see for a split second. But if I got a van right in front of me, I'm unable to see that for that 1 second, which means I'm not able to start moving my way off the shoulder. So ultimately what happens is somebody with a van or a reefer, somebody with a big trailer will pull right in front of you. You can't see nothing. And then if I have an escort, everybody's going to be arriving alive at 55 because that's what we're going to end up doing.
Yeah.
And that's just to get me the cushion out in front so I can, because you never want to hit somebody or hit a bridge or hit structure that's on the shoulder that just magically appears, or somebody just automatically just stops and think the white line is the safe line. When I've got loads sitting 2 feet or 3 feet on the other side of that white line, I got to have time to react.
Yep.
I got to make the public time to react so they can react to me. And when I just got to move over for a split second, I get so many semi trucks that hang out on my driver's side, and I need to get over to get away from something or somebody on the side of the road.
Right.
That makes my job really, really hard. Ultimately, what happens is we end up shutting down 2 lanes instead of 1. And I'll put a pilot car over in the left lane, or I'll go to, most of the time, I'll stay in the right and put the load over to the next lane, and then put the pilot car in the next lane to my left, so they have a clear vision down the road too.
Right.
And that's just the way it's going to end up being.
Right. So, I mean, I guess like the word of advisement there for our big box pullers out there is to
get 7 to
keep going.
10, stay in the left lane and go 7 to 10 truck lengths out there. Don't cut right in front of me. Give me the 7 to 10 truck lengths. It's okay. Y'all can stay out there in the left lane. You're not really going to be upsetting nobody. If you can't pass me within 2 miles, stay behind me. If it's going to take you forever because you're doing a half a mile or a quarter mile faster than I am, you're better off. You'll get better fuel mileage. Just stay back there. If you can pass me and you can do it and be 2 to 4 miles an hour or more, 5 miles an hour greater than what I'm doing, by all means, pass me, because I don't want you behind me. But if you can't pass me, if you're unable to go at least 5 miles an hour faster than I am, just stay behind me. Right. You'll get there at the same time. We could be going coast to coast, and you're not going to get to California any much quicker than I am.
Are you, most stuff you're doing, is it all daytime?
When I'm oversized, there's about a half a dozen, almost 10 states that will allow me to go. If I'm 10 foot and under wide, we can drive at night. Most of the time, if you're flagged up, it's a daylight move only. And then you have to really, really read your provision sheets, because there's a lot of cities that do not want oversized equipment or loads on their streets in their cities. And it's generally morning commute and afternoon commutes. Albuquerque's a good one. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but they have a 6 to 9 and 4 to 6 in the afternoon curfew. And if you're caught inside the city limits moving during that curfew, that's a ticket. They will pull you over and they'll park you and write you a ticket. And that's just to keep the flow of traffic moving. Sure. Chicago, they finally figured out that if we're on the tri-state, they'll let us go around, but for the longest time, we couldn't even be on the tri-state.
Really, the whole way around the 294?
Yep. 294 going around Chicago, because that was considered a during commute.
Yeah.
But then, you know, what happens if you're out there and traffic all of a sudden comes to an abrupt stop and you're stuck? Well, you can't really get... It's hard when you give yourself 3 hours to go through there. Now all of a sudden it's taking you 5 or 6 hours to go through there. So it's hard to do a parking plan.
Now, for that big reveal I teased up at the top. Just what did Freeman find to fit that Freightliner standard 70-inch sleeper in his SD in the way of a shower? Well, here we go.
A lot of times you just want to take a shower, just to take a rinse.
After a little bit of tarping or something.
If you're in Miami or you're in Orlando and it's 90 degrees outside, you're tarping, you're going to get hot and sweaty. Well, after you get all done tarping, it's time to go. You're all hot and sweaty. Now you got to sit in the seat, all hot and sweaty and funky, for however long it takes you to get to a shower. Now, ultimately, you're going to try to do this to where you can get to a place to park safely and legally, and then take a shower. So it took me a while. I finally went on Sprinter van RV, and I don't even know how I got there, but somehow I was surfing the web, and I ended up crashing into that site, and I found Evershower. Now, I don't promote. I'm not promoting them, but
Right.
I found what's called Evershower, and I seen how flexible this shower system was, and I'm able to set it up in my truck in just a matter of minutes. In fact, about a minute. I could dump a gallon of water into it. It recycles the water, so it just recycles it. And you can take a shower until your life's content. And it just on 1 gallon of water. And so even if I'm in a disaster zone, and it's like they happen, and it's always down here is a hurricane season.
Sure.
You can find yourself in a. You can use 1 gallon. You could do it as little as 3/4 of a gallon of water.
Right.
But you can use 1 gallon of water, and at least you can take a shower and get, the sweat off of you, get the
Right.
salts off of you, and make you feel better. So when you do crawl in bed, you're not as nasty. You're not sticky.
Can you use? Is there like a? Can you use more water than that? I guess
It can use. I think you can use 2 gallons of water.
Total
It's
it.
as flexible. You
Yeah.
can hook up a drain hose to it and hook it up to a garden hose.
Yeah.
Run it through a hot water heater, and then use regular garden hose water. You can set it up out in the parking lot. You can set it up in your truck. You can set it up almost anywhere. It comes with a canopy, so once you crawl into it, it's got its own frame that comes with it.
Yeah.
You can use what you need to set it up.
I think you said you often just set it up in your truck, kind of behind the passenger seat.
I set it in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat.
Okay.
I hooked the front part of the parachute material, which is actually what you stand in, into the netting part of the front of that Freightliner, and the back part of it, I put on the cabinets in the back. I just flip it over to the back corners, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's 4 simple little hooks. Dump a gallon of water. Well, I heat up some water, and I dump a gallon of water in it, and away I go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it sounds like a great option for those situations where you don't have a shower facility.
And there's a lot of times when you're oversized, you spend all day strapping and securing and loading and tarping, and it's like, all right, well, I can't go nowhere because now I got curfew. I'm running out of daylight. I'm not going to get to where I need to go to be safe and legally parked.
Right.
I'm where I am. I'm parked, but now I'm all hot and sticky, and I just want to be able to be clean in the morning, put some clean clothes on.
Right.
So when I jump in every shower, I can take a quick shower, and I'll be happy. I'll be a happy camper, and be clean.
Right.
And literally, I found out on Sprinter Van RV.
Okay.
That's how I ended up running in on it.
I think you said it's an Australian company, right?
It's an Australian company. They have
distributed here in the U.S. Yeah.
Yep, it's an Australian company, and they have a distributor in Missouri.
Okay.
And I got to give it to them. I ordered that thing like on a Wednesday, and I think Thursday or Friday it was at the house, and we kind of looked at it and went, what the hell? What box just came up the driveway?
It runs on
That thing runs on 12 volts. Plug
12
it
volts.
into the cigarette lighter, and away you go.
Gotcha.
I did come up with a way to heat up water in a 1 gallon jug. It's called they use it on a farm. It's called a 5 gallon bucket heater to keep the water from freezing for the animals in the winter. That's 110. It's not very big of a thing. You plug it in, you stick it in the water, you plug it in in about 10 minutes, I can warm a gallon of water up to 115, 120 degrees.
Right.
I usually let it cool down a little bit. I found about 110, 112, usually it's a good feeling hot water.
Right.
And then because I control the climate inside of the truck, I can either turn the heat on, or I can turn the air conditioner on, or I can turn it off. So that way when you step out of the shower, you're still in the shower, whatever temperature you want to be at when it comes out, you set that. So life's a lot better now that I can take a shower.
How long has that been since you found that thing?
December.
Oh, so it's real recent. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I can usually, I'm at a point now, when showers are anywhere from 13 to 15 on the bottom side, I've seen shower receipts for as much as $25. So if you can take a shower in your truck and it's just a gallon of water, and you can literally pick up a gallon of water almost anywhere. So you could save yourself $15 to $25 by taking a shower in your truck. I dry everything off before I pack everything up so I don't have to work with any mold or mildew.
Yeah.
Everything gets dried. It's really simple. I use there's like a sham towel that will air dry in literally no time.
Right.
I don't use cloth or nothing like that for towels. I use a chamois.
Yep.
And they do the job. So I make sure everything's all dried, and I make sure I'm all dried, and then I know who stood in that thing, and I know how clean that thing is, and I don't have to worry about catching anything after my little shower, because this is just my little shower.
Right, it's just you, right? Yeah. Cool. At the same time, this is kind of a stopgap for, you told me about some other plans you had for your next truck, which is hopeful for next year around this time.
So I'm in the process of putting another semi. This will be my third. Well, this is my second one, so I'm building my third one. It's going to be a Western Star 49X. It's going to go through Bolt manufacturing up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm going to put it on a 270-inch wheelbase, and then Bolt will figure out what sleeper it needs to be on that wheelbase. And right now they're estimating a 120-inch or 130-inch sleeper. And then that truck will be 100% self-contained. Yeah. It will have the bed folds up and down into a dinette, into a bed. It'll have a single hot plate. It'll have an air induction microwave. It's got a nice refrigerator in it, a refrigerator and a freezer. So you can cook. You can actually it's like an RV with a fifth wheel. Sure. It has a permanent mount shower and a bathroom in it, with a cassette bathroom. So when you do go to the bathroom, you can always wheel it in and use like Flying J, Pilot Flying J's. A lot of them have dumps where you can take the black water and dump it.
Yep. It's like an RV dump. Right?
It's just an RV dump. You can take it home and dump it in your own sewer system. Cool. And then my next one, like I say, that one, and I'm building that one. And the reason why I'm going to a 270, maybe a little bit longer, but not much, is because folks like Canada still have length laws, and the longer the truck, the shorter you have to have a wheelbase on the trailer. So if you get a van, you can suck the tires up on a van, but on specialized equipment like this RGN, them tires don't move. Them axles are solid. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. So in order for me to go into a more of a custom build semi, I got to watch my overall length, because Canada ultimately is 75 feet 6 inches. But if you're pulling, like I say, if you're pulling a van, it's about that kingpin setting. You could be 80 feet long, but you can suck the tandems up underneath of it, still make kingpin and be legal in Canada.
And you do go up there a good bit, eh?
I do. Right now, I am all 48. And I've actually I've been to Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. And I've got a load pretty much booked already to go to Kodiak Island, Alaska.
Oh, wow.
And on that trip, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The maximum length trailer, because the boat will not take anything else. The maximum length trailer to go to Kodiak Island is 48 foot. You actually drop your trailer on the boat, and then you have to disconnect because there's no room for you, and then you park next to the trailer, or you park in a parking spot on the boat ride. And that's a 137-mile boat ride, and it could take a long time to get there, but they said pre-planned for 15 hours to get there. And once I do that, that's like the bucket list for anybody who's been in the industry for a while.
Yep.
Everybody has Alaska on the bucket list. So I've coined this years ago. Actually, when I became an owner-operator, I am not a truck driver. I haven't been a truck driver for years. I'm a paid professional tourist. And I enjoy my job.
That's cool. When are you doing that? Do you know?
It's supposed to be sometime second quarter, third quarter.
Okay.
They've already put my name on it, and I've already agreed, hey, I'll go up there.
Yeah.
There is a lot of logistics that I have to do, because one, getting to Alaska, it's not like down here in the States where you can stop every 20 miles at a truck stop and go take a shower.
Sure.
Yeah, nay, that's not going to happen up there. A lot of the infrastructure up there for truck stops, they don't have showers. So you can stop and get fuel. Now there's a garden hose out back if you want to stand in, 10-degree weather, go take a shower and knock yourself out. Hence, the little shower system I got now will come in extremely handy.
Okay.
Because every night I can take a shower and I don't care where I'm parked. You can get parking, but you're not going to get the creature comforts that we have here.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the same as you will, the Petro TAs where it's a full service sit down restaurant, whatever. You're not going to get that all the way up there. A lot of places in the States, you're not going to get that either.
Yeah, sure. You came to trucking after military service, right?
So I had dueling careers. So I went active duty in '88, went through Desert Shield, Storm, and Desert Farewell. Came back to the United States and said, yep, nope, I've had enough of this military stuff. Got out and went into the Army Reserves. And when I got out, I used my GI Bill. I invested about $3,000, $3,500 in my GI Bill. And I actually went to work I went to school at J.B. Hunt, and I worked for J.B. Hunt for a number of years. And then, long story short, I stayed as a reservist. And then I'd get called up. I still do my 2 weekend or 1 week or 2 weeks a year and 1 weekend every month. I still did all of that. My last tour as a senior non-commissioned officer in the military, in the Army, my last tour back over in the Middle East, went to Baghdad, and that was in 2010. And then I retired with 25 years out of the military in 2013. But in between all my military time, I continued to drive truck, either as a company driver or after 05, an owner-operator. Yeah. Being an owner-operator, being in the Army Reserves, made it really tough because every time I got a good, really paying load that went, long distance, I had a reserve. I had drill weekend, and it was like, you got to be kidding me. But I managed to stick it out for 25 years. My wife was in it for 26 and a half years. Okay. And then she retired out when I was in the Middle East this last time. She was in the Army as well. In fact, a lot of times we were in the same unit. Okay. I ended up as a promotable E8. She ended up as an E7, Sergeant's First Class. And it worked out great. Although I was private when I got home and she was still a sergeant. That's the way things work.
Big thanks to owner-operator Freeman and Marhofer both, as well as Mr. Brian Sheehan for their input on this one. You can contribute feedback yourself anytime with a message to our podcast line at 615-852-8530. Overdrive Radio is available wherever you get your podcasts at the world-famous overdriveonline.com, Apple and Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and many more. Leave us a rating and review, and subscribe if you haven't. Find pictures of Freeman's oversized hauler in the post that houses this podcast for March 17th, 2023 at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker, songwriter, and Overdrive contributor Long Haul Paul Marhofer.
The estimated opening time is unknown.
The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis the Snake Man himself, Whammick, Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own news editor Matt Cole, social media coordinator Holly Young, executive editor Alex Lockey, and video editors Lawson Rudisell and Mr. Andrew Gwynn. See you next time.